Hello, everyone, and welcome in to our final week of our psychoeducation group for couples. Really glad that you've tuned in. Whenever you're tuning in, I really do appreciate it. Um, haven't done this group in a couple of weeks now. Last week, my son was born, and that was the second child for my wife and me, and it was just a really great time to welcome in our son into this world and been spending time with my family ever since, and really trying to just help my wife out and spend some time with our newborn and of course our daughter as well. So I wasn't able to get to a place where I could do this group, and I apologize for that. But hope you understand why I was not able to be able to do that. But we're back here. We're going to wrap up the group here today. This is the final week. I think this is the 10th week actually that we've been doing this. And so we're going to wrap it up here. It's been a good ride here. I've enjoyed doing this, and I hope that you found these group sessions helpful. And I ask that you will share these videos with other people. There are a lot of people out there who need help, and there are a lot of people who, could just benefit from this in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And so I hope you'll uh, send these videos to people, or push them to our page on YouTube or Facebook so they can see these videos. Now, today's group, we're just going to be doing a summary of everything that we've talked about. We're going to go week by week, looking at just very quickly overviewing each week that we've gone through. Um, and this does have the potential to get a little long. We did this with our grief group a couple nights ago, and it went a little over an hour. I'm going to try to keep it around that time, but no promises there. I wanted to do this, to be a refresher, because 10 weeks looking back at the first thing that we talked about, you may not remember. And so kind of give you a refresher here, but also secondly, this can be a kind of like an comprehensive and all-encompassing video for you to come back to refer to. So hope that you can find this helpful as well, and a good tool for you in the future. But also, all of our videos are that we've done. All of our groups are still on YouTube and on our Facebook page. You can always refer to those in the future. With that being said, let's just go ahead and dive in. Again, I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate you tuning in these last 10 weeks. And hopefully we can learn a little bit more here tonight. So let's dive right in. Week one was, again, 10 weeks ago. That's when we talked about attachment styles. So let's dive into that very quickly. What is attachment theory? Well, attachment theory says that people naturally seek strong emotional bonds. We naturally seek connection. We are relational beings, and when we first come into this world, we are seeking connection. And in particular, the most important connection is that connection, that bond with our caregivers, and generally that's our parents, and in particular our mothers. And so those early bonds are really important. So those early bonds, or lack thereof, with our caregivers play a significant role in relational functioning later in life. So if you have a negative uh, attachment, and you struggle to connect with your caregiver, or they are not providing you with a good home and a good connection, well, that's going to play negatively into relationships down the line and in your romantic relationships. And the opposite is true. If you have a positive connection, a secure attachment with your caregiver, that's likely to play into later relationships and romantic relationships to be secure. Um, so those early connections really play an important role in our relational functioning later in life. And so we develop beliefs about relationships based on our relationships with our parents or our caregivers early in life. And as we're growing, how we have that connection that we have with our parents and our caregivers really plays into our relational functioning later in life. So that's kind of what attachment theory is, and then very short summary of that. And there are really generally four types of attachment styles when you search this up on the internet. Let me touch on these very quickly. The anxious attachment style is an attachment style where someone is really afraid of abandonment and fears being rejected and being abandoned. And so they're anxious in the relationship. They're always kind of on on alert of, is my partner going to leave me? What's my partner doing? And so they may be clingy, they may be reaching out regularly because they want to make sure that the relationship is going in the right direction. They want intimacy, and they're afraid when that's not there, and so they're anxious. And this is again, there were some things that went on in childhood, most likely, that are now playing in to the relationship and later in life. Avoidant attachment style. These people are kind of the opposite of the anxious. These people, they actually fear intimacy. They Once the relationship gets close, they kind of withdraw. These people really crave their independence, and they're fine being away from their partner. They feel comfortable being alone. And so they avoid that intimacy, they avoid that commitment. And again, there was things that went on in childhood, most likely, that led to this avoidant attachment style. Disorganized attachment. This is one where um, they can kind of bounce between anxious and avoidant. And sometimes being anxious, they want that intimacy, but at the same time, they're afraid of it. And likely this came from a childhood where their caregivers were um, very abusive or harmful to them, and so they wanted that intimacy with their parent, but they were also scared of their parent, and so there's this disorganized attachment that arises, and so it really doesn't fit into one category. But then there's the secure attachment, and this is what we want to get to. We want to get to the secure attachment where we feel safe in the relationship. We feel secure in the relationship. We feel a it's okay to rely on our partner and for them to rely on us, but we also feel it's okay to have some independence. And so that's where we want to get to, is this secure attachment. And generally this comes from having a secure attachment in childhood, having parents that were attentive to our needs, who responded to us, who were there for us. They weren't perfect, but they were just there, and they cared about us, and that they were attentive to our needs and responded to us. So these are the types of attachment, and this plays very important into relationships because you think about what's called the anxious avoidant trap. Typically, research shows that anxious attachment style, people with an anxious attachment style, typically match up with avoidant attachment styles, and you could see how someone who's anxious, who is craving that intimacy, who really wants that intimacy and is kind of clingy, how that would really be kind of a problem with someone who's avoidant, who really craves that independence, but they have somebody who's kind of always clinging on to them, that might clash. And so you can see how this could kind of be an issue. And so it's important to know your attachment style, and there are quizzes out there you could figure that out. You may just know that from just studying your history. um, but you can work to secure attachment. And I believe we talked about that several weeks ago. And if we didn't, there are a lot of resources out there that you could look to help you work on that secure attachment. So attachment styles really, really are important in romantic relationships. So that was week one. Week two was building friendship in a romantic relationship. So here's a quote from Catherine Hill from Care for the Family. She says this: relationship experts say that happy marriages are based on deep friendship. Friendship is actually at the core of a strong marriage. And if there's a high quality friendship in a marriage, there is likely to be a high level of romantic and physical satisfaction. When we are friends, we look forward to spending time together. And when we genuinely like each other, we get more out of our life experiences because we have an emotional connection with the person who is sharing them. I couldn't have said it better myself, but that's true. Relationship experts are all agreed that deep relationships, the best relationships, are built on deep friendship. That's where it starts. And really, the idea is, how can you be in love with somebody that you're not even friends with, that you don't know well, that you don't like spending time with? It's going to be really, really hard to be in a good, strong relationship with someone you're not friends with. And so we talked about the importance of building that friendship, of being close friends, the best of friends, in that second week. So we talked about some tips for building friendship. Number one is ask each other questions regularly, right? Be curious about one another. Like ask each other even the most simple of questions. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite movie? Who was your best friend in high school? What was your favorite thing to do with your family growing up? Things like that. And get to know each other again. Spend quality time together. You need time to be alone to just have your undivided attention with one another. That's where we can learn more about each other. That's where we can ask those questions. And that's where we find common interest and things that we like to do together. So spend quality time together. That's what friends do. They spend time together. Find common interest, right? Find things that you both like to do together and start doing it. Even if it's something small like a puzzle, do it. Find those common interests. Set goals together. Look for things way down the line, big things that you could do, but also look for things that you could do quickly, smaller things, right? Set goals together and reach them, right? And that's kind of what friends do is they set goals for their relationship and they meet them together. And sometimes you set goals without even like talking about it. It can just kind of come up and it's we're working on something together. But most of the time you have to be intentional about it, setting those goals, what you want to do in life and where you want to get to. Have fun. Go out and do some fun things. Be spontaneous. Do some things that you haven't done in a while, or maybe some things you did when you first started dating. But just have some fun. So these are some tips. There's one more slide here. Date each other. Go on dates. Go out to eat at your favorite restaurant regularly. Go out and do something fun, like we just talked about. Go see a movie, whatever it may be. There's date book ideas. You can search those up online to give you some ideas. But don't stop dating. Take each other out, have a nice date, and enjoy each other's company. Always be present, right? A good friend is always going to be present, always going to be there for their friends. So make sure that you're always present. And when you're together, put the distractions aside sometimes. Put the phone away, put the TV away, put everything away, and just be with each other. Share your days. When you come in, don't just say, "Hey, the day was good." Actually share about your day so you can get to know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, right? And that's again a little bit more about getting to know each other. Make your partner feel special. Do something special for one another, right? Friends do that sometimes. Get a small gift for one another. Do something that's going to make your partner feel special, something that they like or that's unexpected. You know, do that do those things that make each other feel special. And then vacation alone, right? Again, this is more about spending quality time together, but you need time alone. Go have fun. Spend time away from the world and get out and do something fun. Good, strong marital relationships are built upon friendship. You need to get to know one another and spend time together. And so I encourage you to do that several weeks ago, and I encourage you to do that again, building that friendship. That was week 2. Week 3 was love banks, and this was a really, really interesting concept that I had never really learned about before until I started doing this internship in counseling with Joanna Ministries. But the love bank is based on research by a man named Dr. Willard Harley. You see the source down there from marriagebuilders.com. Basically, he says that the love bank is this bank that we keep inside of our minds, where we keep accounts of all the interactions we have with others and those feelings that we have for others. So all the people in our lives that we know, we have an account in the love bank for them. And so positive interactions with others lead to positive feelings, which would be a deposit in the love bank. It'd be like taking a check to the bank or taking some cash to the bank, and your balance grows. So when you have positive interactions with somebody, it's like they're depositing money into the account in your love bank. And so as the balance grows, your feelings towards them grow. Negative interactions do the opposite. When you have a negative interaction with someone, it leads to negative feelings. And that's like taking money out of the bank. It's like going and making a withdrawal. And so when you have a negative interaction with someone, it's like taking that money out, and it's making that balance go closer to zero. And so you start developing those negative feelings. So When the love bank reaches a high level of deposits, right? When you're having these really strong feelings with somebody, these positive interactions with somebody, it reaches a certain level where romance is triggered or where love, these feelings of love start to be triggered. And so this is when, again, when somebody you're having really positive interactions with them, and it's like they keep making these deposits into this account, and it gets to the point where romance is triggered, and you're falling in love. But the opposite can also happen. The love bank can hit zero, and or the love bank account, that is, can zero out and hit the negative, and cold feelings start to develop. So there could be people that you continue to have negative interactions with and negative feelings towards, and it's like your balance is at zero or it's even in the negative, and really cold, resentful feelings start to develop. And what ends up happening in a relationship is that a couple falls in love, right? They're riding a high. It's like the love bank accounts are just going crazy for one another. The balance is really high, and we're continuing to make deposits because we're having these really strong feelings and interactions with each other. But as time goes on, for a lot of couples, these positive interactions, the deposits, if you will, stop happening, and if they do happen, they're happening very few and far between. And so the love bank starts to run on empty, or it zeroes out, and then cold feelings start to develop. So we have to keep depositing into our significant other's account. We have to keep making those deposits. We need to keep having those positive interactions with one another and build that balance up for one another. So, well, I guess I didn't put this in here. We'll talk about week four in here in just a second. But what we can do to do that is to, basically start to tailor our love to our significant other. So we talked about love languages in that lesson as well with Gary Chapman. This is just one example here to make a deposit, right? If your partner's love language is gifts, well, getting them gifts regularly is going to be really important. That's going to be like making a deposit into that account. If your partner's love language is quality time, well, spending quality time with them regularly is going to be like making that deposit into the love bank. And so we've got to do things that are going to be making those deposits. We can't do those things that are going to pull the money out, if you will, or make a negative interaction into the love bank account. We got to get rid of those negative things and start putting things back into the account. And so I challenge you, if you're watching this here and you find that your relationship you feel like you haven't been giving to each other as much, start doing it more. Start depositing into that love bank, because you may be running on empty, and you can only run on empty or in the negative for so long before things really start to derail. So that's kind of what we talked about with the love bank. Week four was communication and conflict resolution. I feel like that was actually a lot a lot further down the line, but for some reason I have it here as week four. It's really important. We'll go ahead and talk about it here. We talked about communication styles, and there are generally four communication styles: passive aggressive, and assertive. And what we want to get to is the assertive communication. The assertive communication is someone who can really express their needs openly and very straightforward, and without hurting somebody, without being angry or resentful or anything like that. They just openly and very clearly express their needs and their desires. And that's what we want to get to, is that assertive communication. The passive communication, these type of people are really find it hard to express their needs and their what they're feeling inside. And these people, they just kind of hide exactly how they're feeling. And these people probably do this because they're afraid of conflict, and they don't want anything that don't want to stir anything up. And so they're kind of passive, and they kind of let people walk all over them. The aggressive people, these people are going to let their opinion be known. They're going to do it in an aggressive way, maybe with some anger, or some heated exchanges. They don't mind telling you exactly how they feel, and they'll ramp up the energy just to get their way and to let you know exactly how they're feeling. And they may be even a little bit rude with it. Those are some aggressive communication. That's what aggressive communication is. And then there's passive aggressive. It's kind of a mix where they may seem passive, but really they're aggressive underneath. And so it's kind of like this hidden aggression. And we kind of know what a passive aggressiveness is. And you can see that the passive aggressive and the passive aggressive communication styles are not going to be helpful in a romantic relationship or any relationship that is. So we've got to work on getting to that assertive communication where we're okay sharing exactly how we feel, and we can do that in a way that is very straightforward but also gentle. And that's where we want to get to, is that assertive communication. But it's starting to recognize, what's my style? How am I communicating with my partner? And working on getting to that assertive communication if we're not already there. So then we talked about the four horsemen and the antidotes for the four horsemen. So John Gottman is a relationship expert who came up with the four horsemen of the apocalypse, which are four communication patterns that are going to be devastating to a relationship. But then he came up with four antidotes to fix those four horsemen. So the four horsemen are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So criticism are those almost like these little jabs at each other, where you are basically focusing on a perceived flaw in your partner, and you kind of take a shot at them. And rather than focusing on a problem that's at hand, you focus on a flaw that you see in your partner. And the example I gave that I've seen before is, the house is a mess. You walk in, you say, "You're such a slob. You never do anything around the house." Right? You are focusing on that person instead of focusing on the fact that the house is dirty, right? You focus on the person and you focus on a flaw that you see in them. That's criticism, and nobody likes to be criticized. And so criticism is really going to hurt the relationship. So, what fixes that is what's called a gentle startup. You focus on your feelings. I statements are really, really important here, is what John Gottman points to. So, it would be something, instead of saying, "You're such a slob, you never do anything around the house," it would be, "I feel really upset when the house is not clean. Could you please do the dishes?" Something like that. You see, that's much more gentle and much more easy to handle than saying, "You're such a slob, you never do anything," right? You're focusing more on how you feel about the situation, and then you're expressing a positive need that you'd like to have done, right? "Could you please do the dishes?" Right? It's a simple request. And you also focus at the beginning, right? "I feel frustrated when the house is not clean." So a gentle startup, and really the tone of voice here can really be helpful. Instead of coming in heated, really be gentle with it, and that can really fix a lot of the criticism, and a lot of bad communication can really be fixed by just having a gentle startup. Contempt to me is really just like deeper criticism. Contempt is really like an intent to harm someone while like attacking their character. And so this would be like hurling insults, like eye rolling, sarcasm. Eye rolling and sarcasm basically shows that you have no care or respect for what they're saying. And so contempt is really, really dangerous. It can be really, really hurtful. Nobody wants to feel contempt. Really, contempt is a kind of synonymous with hatred and hateful feelings. Nobody wants to have that directed towards them. And so in a romantic relationship, that can really be harmful. So contempt needs to be put away. And how that happens is by building a culture of appreciation. And this is not something that happens overnight, but you got to start building this atmosphere in the relationship where you appreciate one another, where you're focusing on the things that you have done rather than the things you haven't done, where you're focusing on the things that you appreciate in your partner, that you love about your partner, and talking about those things more regularly. And so when you build that culture of appreciation, you won't want to be contemptuous towards each other. You don't want to be hateful towards one another. So building that culture of appreciation is really, really important. Defensiveness is the next one, and that's I think we know what that is, but that's basically um, the unwillingness to accept responsibility and to start blaming somebody else or start bringing things up from another argument or something like that to kind of throw it back on them instead of, taking that responsibility. So defensiveness is, something that comes up with a lot of people. It's like immediately when someone calls you out for something, you don't just say, "Okay, you're right." It's, "Well, you did this," or, "Well, hey, this is it," and try to defend it. Don't be defensive, right? Defensiveness never gets anywhere. So what you have to do is take responsibility. And I know this is easier said than done because we build these patterns and we build these routines in our lives where this is just kind of something that we do. It's hard to take responsibility, but we got to get to the point where instead of fighting back or, not accepting the responsibility or and blaming the other partner, we've got to be able to just say, you know what, you're right. I did do that. I did do that, and I take responsibility, and that diffuses the anger so much. So start taking responsibility, and then stonewalling. Stonewalling is basically when you shut down and you refuse to talk about the problems. And so it's like when the argument gets heated or you start discussing something you don't want to talk about, you withdraw from the conversation, you shut down and you won't talk about it. The problem with that is that the problems in the relationship don't get resolved. They just get left on the table, and you're just kind of left without it being resolved, and it's just kind of festering. So stonewalling does not help. What you need to do is practice self-soothing, which is basically when the arguments get heated or a discussion comes up that you don't want to talk about, you take a break for a moment, you agree together. Take a break for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, go outside to get some fresh air, listen to some music, read a book for a minute, watch some funny videos, self-soothe, and then come back to the conversation. You have to agree together that we're going to come back to this discussion. You can't just leave it on the table, right? Because leaving it on the table, again, it leaves the dirty laundry out in the air, if you will. And so we've got to address it. And so what we can't do though is get so heated where we're not even, able to think about what we want to say, and we're just, hurting each other. So we want to practice that self-soothing so we can calm down and get back into a more rational mindset. So those are the four horsemen and their antidotes. And that's what we talked about with communication. Now, managing conflict. This comes again from Dr. John Gottman as well. Number one, accept your partner's viewpoint. We have to get to the point where we can put ourselves in our partner's shoes, where we're not all about I'm right and it's my way or no way. We have to be able to step into our partner's shoes and see, hey, that's a valid point. Hey, that makes sense. Hey, I see where you're coming from. Even if we don't like it, even if we disagree with it, we've got to be able to empathize, sympathize, and feel with our partner and and see their viewpoint, step into their shoes. And if we can never do that, the relationship's never going to work. Number two is dialoguing about problems. This is where instead of getting so heated about our problems, it's just being able to talk about our differences. We have to get to the point where we dialogue about it and just talk about it instead of hurling insults, instead of getting so heated and angry. We just talk about our problems together. So dialoguing about problems really, really important to do. Just talking about the things that we disagree about and working through those things. Again, we've already talked about this. Practice self-soothing when heated. When you get really, really heated in an argument or something you disagree about, practice self-soothing. Take a break. Do some breathing exercises. Again, go for a walk, read a book, whatever it may be to bring you down. And then finally, compromise. You can't insist on your own way. You got to meet in the middle somewhere, and try to find that middle ground where both parties can be pleased and can make it with whatever you've come to terms with. So compromise. These are some rules for managing conflict. And again, these are not exhaustive lists. And this is going through each of these weeks. It's really hard to kind of boil it down to just a couple of slides, but hopefully you get some things out of this here. So that was a week 4. Week 5 was intimacy. We talked about intimacy. So intimacy, what is it? It's close familiarity or friendship. closeness, Oxford Languages. That's their definition. Close familiarity or friendship, closeness. And the word I think stands out is closeness. Closeness. That's really what we're talking about with intimacy is being extremely close. Shayna Shutt from Focus on the Family said this about intimacy. It's a blending of our heart with another's so we can see into who they really are and they can see into us. Being intimate involves the mixing of our life with another's, a mingling of souls, a sharing of hearts. This is something we all long for because it's how God made us. We were designed to connect. That was a beautiful quote. I thought it was spot on. A blending of our heart with another person. That's really what it's all about. It involves mixing our lives completely with another person, being fully integrated with another person's life and they with us. The best way I've heard intimacy described, and I shared this when we went over this a few weeks ago, the best way I've heard it described is intimacy sounds like into me see. Into me see. So, with intimacy in a romantic relationship, we're allowing someone to see inside, to see the deepest parts of us, to open up and be vulnerable with them. That's what we're talking about with intimacy. And it's really, really important in a romantic relationship to be intimate, to open up, be vulnerable, and to basically blend our heart, blend our life with another person. If we're not letting someone else in and not getting close with them, it's going to be really hard to have a strong, close romantic relationship. So that's what we talked about with intimacy. Now, we talked about several different types of intimacy because when we talk about intimacy or being intimate, the first thing that I think most people's minds go to is sex, is physical intimacy. And that certainly is part of it. It's a huge part of it, but that's not all of it. There's emotional intimacy, there's intellectual intimacy, spiritual intimacy. We talked about those. We won't go each over each of those, but there are different types of intimacy, not just one area of deep closeness. So, how to grow intimacy? Number one, stay curious. Kind of already talked about this, I think, with building friendship, but always be curious about one another. Always be looking for ways to know each other more. And don't think that you've already arrived at knowing your partner. There's always something to learn, always a reason to grow with your partner. So stay curious. Number one, touch more. It is proven that touch is really really important for relationships, romantic relationships in particular. When we touch, oxytocin is released when we have that skin to skin contact, and it's a that bonding chemical and a pleasurable chemical that is released when we have that skin to skin contact in it. It's really, really important to touch. And there's just nothing like, holding hands and kissing and hugging and cuddling. So touch more often. Spend time together alone, right? We've already kind of touched on this too when we are talking about being friends, but we can grow in intimacy when we really get to know each other deeply. And we do that when we spend time together alone. And when we spend time together alone, right, things come up, right? When we spend time alone, that's a chance for physical intimacy to take place. And so spend more time together alone, support each other, always be in each other's corner. That can build that intimacy just to know that your partner is there and that they're always going to be there. They're always in your corner, always there for you. That's so very important to support each other. Then be open and vulnerable, right? We've already touched on this. This is all what intimacy really is all about, is opening up your life and being vulnerable and letting somebody in. And so if you're not able to do that, then intimacy is going to be really tough. Talk about everything. And I'm talking about everything, your deepest, darkest secrets to what you had for lunch. You've got to talk about everything. That's going to build that intimacy. And then do something new together, explore together, do something you've never done before, go on an adventure. There's something about experiencing something new that builds a connection. So these are just some tips for growing that intimacy. Intimacy is so very important. It's really what a relationship is all about, is knowing someone deeply and blending your life with somebody else. So that was intimacy. Week 6 was personal identity and dreams. And what we talked about here was that each person in the relationship has an identity that they bring into the relationship. And that can sometimes cause problems, like this slide says here. Many problems couples face stem simply from a lack of recognizing and appreciating the differences in each other. So sometimes couples just they get into a relationship and they fail to recognize the differences in personality. They fail to recognize, for example, that their partner is extroverted while they're introverted, and you don't really know how that could play into a relationship. Some they're introverted, and you don't really know how that could play into a relationship sometimes, until you start getting into the relationship more, and you realize, okay, my partner is extroverted and I'm introverted, and so we may not feel the same about social situations and so on and so forth. That's a really simple example. There are a lot of deeper things than that. But sometimes couples just don't realize that personalities are different and we've got to accommodate one another. It's important to know one another deeply and accommodate each other and our personalities, and not just insist on what we like and what we want. We got to be able to accommodate our partner as well. So there's some personality tests there. Um, 16 personalities. I think that's the Myers-Briggs personality indicator, and that one's really, really good. The Enneagram test is another one that I feel like is really popular. And then the Big Five test is another one. You can go to these. Unfortunately, I don't think you can click them here, but excuse me. These are the personality tests, and you can just take the quiz, and it'll spit out your personality type. And this is a really great way for you to get to know each other better, and then to start knowing, hey, this is what how my partner feels. This is what my partner is like, and start understanding your partner more, and getting a deeper understanding of who they are. So we each bring a personal identity into the relationship, and sometimes our personal identities can clash. Our personalities may not line up, and we need to be able to navigate that. But also, we each have dreams, right? We each have things that we want to accomplish in life, and it's just a part of our personality, and our identity is what we want to do in life, the goals that we want to meet. Some people want to make it up the corporate ladder and be a boss. Some people just want to be stay at home and be with the kids. Some people want to be a sports star, whatever it may be. What we need to do is to make the life dreams come true for our partner. And what we mean by that is we need to be able to support our partner and help our partner meet the things that they want to accomplish in life. Our goals and aspirations are deep parts of us, right? Things that we want to accomplish in life. And so we need to help our partner meet those things. So making life dreams come true looks like identifying your partner's life dreams, right? If you don't know your partner's life dreams, you can't make them come true if you don't know them. So you need to ask yourself, do I know what my partner really wants to accomplish in life? Do I really know what their aspirations are, their deepest wants? And if you don't, you need to ask those questions. Get to know those life dreams. Then, number two, devise a plan to make the dreams come true, right? So really sit down and think about this. What can I do to make my partner happy? What can I do to get my partner to where he or she wants to be, right? Devising that plan, right? And when you do that and sit down, it shows that you're when you sit down and actually try to devise that plan and put some time into it. It shows that you care, shows that you really want to make a difference in your partner. Then, thirdly, help your partner achieve those dreams. Whatever you can do to help them, whatever it may be. If it's starting that business, well, keeping the books for them, or staying up late with them to think of ideas to make the business go, or doing the social media for them, or whatever it may be. Helping in any way, you're helping your partner in any way to achieve their dreams is really important. And then finally, Being supportive, even if you have reservations, right? Be supportive, even if it's something that you're kind of like hesitant about, still support them in it. Now, here's what we're not saying. We're not saying, that if your partner wants to do something that's risky or something that's going to put their life in danger or put the relationship in danger, right? Like we obviously don't want to do that, right? We're talking about things that are really realistic here that your partner has really long. We're really talking about these deep seated, deep rooted things that we want to accomplish in life. So we need to help each other meet those dreams, and that's what we talked about several weeks ago in that lesson. Week 7 was trust and commitment. Now, trust and commitment are pillars in a relationship. Without trust and commitment, a relationship is just going to collapse. There's just no way it can work without trust and commitment. So, trust and commitment, we spent some time, a whole week, talking about that. So, trust is the feeling of security and loyalty between you and your partner. It's built on a foundation of honesty, reliability, and consistency in words and actions. Trust is being able to rely on your partner, knowing that they're gonna be there for you, knowing that they're gonna tell you the truth at all times, and they're gonna be consistent with you at all times, right? That's really what we're talking about with trust. Kind of encompasses a lot of things. Zach Brittle on Gottman.com. This is, John Gottman that we were talking about a few minutes ago, his website. One of their writers said, the basis of trust is the idea of attunement. Consider the following acronym: awareness, turning towards, tolerance, understanding, non defensive responding, and empathy. So very quickly, awareness is just being aware, more aware of your partner and how they're feeling, right? Turning towards is responding to your partner when they want to connect with you. Tolerance is tolerating their viewpoint. Understanding is having an understanding of their viewpoint, how they feel. Non-defensive responding is being able to respond without getting defensive, without blaming them, without with taking responsibility, that is. And then empathy is trying to see things from their perspective. And they say, Gottman says basically that is how trust is built, is through attunement. And so trust is really, really an important key in a relationship. Without being able to trust your partner, think about not being able to trust your partner at all, right? The relationship's going to fail if there is no way you can rely on your partner, if there's no way you can count on your partner or trust your partner or trust their word, right? It's going to be really hard. So trust is really, really important. So work on attunement to build that trust. And then commitment. Commitment is another pillar. Oxford Languages says that it's the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause, activity, etc. So the idea of being dedicated, if you're not dedicated to the relationship, it's going to be really hard to have a really successful relationship without being dedicated to it. What you're committed to is what you're going to spend your time on, what you love the most. So, and that generally should be one of the things you love the most should generally be your relationship with your partner. And so, is that dedication there? So, in terms of relationship, commitment means being dedicated to your partner. Commitment is summed up really in those traditional wedding vows. I take you to be my wife or husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till death do us part. That's commitment. Is I'm in this for the long haul. I'm in this until death do us part, no matter what happens. I'm here and I'm going to push through. I'm dedicated. I'm in this with you. That's commitment. And again, if that's not there, it's going to be really hard to have a successful relationship, right? If you're not dedicated to the relationship, if you're not in it for the long haul, that's going to be hard to have a good, successful relationship. And I would say, commitment and trust kind of are interwoven, right? Without commitment, there's going to be a lack of trust. Without trust, there's going to be a lack of commitment. So um, these things are really, really important pillars of a relationship. And you can work on it if it's not there. You can work on building trust. You can work on the commitment, but it takes time and it takes a lot of effort. But it can happen. Week 8 was betrayal, and this is when we talked about, really, cheating. When one partner cheats on another partner, when one partner, um, goes behind a partner's back and, it starts engaging in a relationship with somebody else. That's really what we talked about, and this is one of the most difficult things that couples face is betrayal. Now, obviously, not all couples face this, but a lot do. We have a lot of couples that come into counseling because of betrayal, because of infidelity. And it's a difficult thing to deal with. So, there was a study from 2021 by Selterman et al. From 2021. Um, it was a study of 495 participants, and they revealed 8 motives for cheating. In other words, what were the 8 reasons why these 495 participants cheated? And these were the 8 answers: anger, low self-esteem, lack of love, low commitment, need for variety, neglect, sexual desire, and circumstance. So, anger would be like you're angry with your partner, so you want to get them back, and so you go cheat on them. You go behind their back and you betray them, kind of get them back. Low self esteem. You want kind of to build yourself up, and if somebody has their eye on you, and you realize that they think you look good or whatever it may be, it may build your self esteem up, and you may cheat. Right? You get that little boost of self esteem. Lack of love, right? You feel like the relationship is lacking in love. There's not that fire anymore, and so you go and cheat. Um, Low commitment. We just talked about commitment, right? Low commitment can really lead to infidelity. Need for variety. Some people feel like just having one person is not for them, and so they need variety. Um, or they need something a little bit different here and there. Neglect, not meeting each other's needs. That's kind of like that love banks we were talking about, where you're not depositing into each other's accounts, and instead you may be withdrawing, and that could lead to some devastating things in the relationship. Sexual desire. There are some people who really struggle to main to what's the right word they really struggle to, I guess, tame their sexual desire, right? They have this really strong sexual desire, and they can't, handle it, and they go after other people besides their significant other. And then circumstance, where some people are just they get into situations where it's really easy to cheat. It's really easy to go behind their partner's back, and so they do it. Now, here's what I have to say about these things. I get it. These are the main 8 reasons for cheating. But here's the thing: this does not absolve the person of responsibility, right? And here's the thing: just because someone's in this situation doesn't mean they have to cheat, right? Just because somebody has strong sexual desire does not mean that they have to go sleep with somebody besides their spouse, right? Just because someone feels neglected does not mean that they have to go and cheat. So there is absolutely no excuse for cheating. It's wrong, and there's no excuse for it. This is just kind of the reasons why people do cheat. This is the reasons that they gave, but there's still no excuse for it. There's still there has to be some accountability. Not some. There has to be accountability taken for the person who cheats. They have to realize what they did was wrong. Um, but these were just the kind of main reasons that people have given for why cheating takes place. Now, tips for overcoming betrayal. Number one, seek counseling. It's what we do in counseling is help couples overcome betrayal a lot of the time, and so we can help you at Joanna Snow Ministries, but there's a lot of other counselors too. Seek counseling. It's really hard to for anybody to go through something like this betrayal, and seeking professional help can really be helpful and turn things around for you. Counselors are professionally trained and can really do great things for your relationship. So seek counseling. That's number one. Number two, don't make any rash decisions. Don't do something very quickly, right? If you find out that your partner's cheated on you, don't immediately go file for divorce. Don't immediately say we're breaking up, right? Give it some thought and don't do something that you're going to regret. Right when we're hurt, when we've been stabbed in the back, right? Our immediate reaction may be to do something rash, to get back at them. Don't do that, right? You're going to do something that you regret. So don't make any rash decisions. Think on it. Let it take some time, and then make some decisions when your mind's a little bit more clear. Talk about the betrayal openly, right? There cannot be anything hidden about a betrayal, about infidelity. There's got to be an open, honest discussion, and really, it should be at the guidance of the person who was betrayed by their partner, right? They should be the one who kind of sets the rules, if you will. Like if they want to know all the details, then it should be shared. Like if they want to know exactly what you did with somebody, that should be shared. And in many cases, people don't want to know all the details, but in some they do. And for those who have cheated, who have betrayed, you've got to be open. You've got to be willing to share and not hide anything. That's really, really important. And number four, be accountable, right? Both partners need to be accountable. Both partners need to realize, hey, we've done some things wrong. Well, we've done some things that have not been helpful in the relationship, that may have, pushed somebody, out. But the person who cheated really, really has to take responsibility more than anything else, right? You've really got to be accountable and realize that it was wrong what you did, going behind your partner's back, cheating on your partner. You got to be accountable, right? You've got to come forward and say, I was wrong, right? And really, that's going to be the biggest step, is coming forward and saying that, and just opening up and taking responsibility for your actions. So that was what we talked about with betrayal a couple of weeks ago. Now, the final week was couples counseling. And in this session, what we did was go over what it would be like if you do come to counseling. So, an overview very quickly: couples counseling allows partners to work on their relationship through a variety of methods. Couples counseling is all about helping couples work through whatever they want to work through. And counselors employ a variety of methods, right? Exercises, techniques, theories to use with their couples. That's what we do with couples. Joanna Snow Ministries, we work with a lot of couples. And in fact, I love to work with couples. But there's a lot of great couples counselors out there. And what we'll do is just help you work through whatever you have going on. If it's communication problems, if it's something like infidelity, if it's something like parenting, we'll work on it, whatever it is. Generally, couples counseling takes place conjointly, meaning that both of you are in the room at the same time with the counselor. Now, we'll talk about in just a second, there are times where couples are split up and we do individual sessions, but for the most part, it takes place together. The couples and counselor will identify main concerns, set goals for change, and will work to reach those goals. So, a counselor's job is to identify what's going on in the relationship, where do you want to be, and what can we do to get there? And they're going to help you do that. And so it's really, if you're having relationship problems, counseling can be so very helpful. It can be so very important to improving your relationship, to saving your relationship. So, uh, consider coming to counseling. Last slide here is kind of just giving you a view of what the sessions would be like. And really, with any counselor, it's going to be different, right? No two counselors are alike. I'm kind of giving you what it looks like if you come and see me, and I think this could kind of be a good, I guess, framework for what you could see with a lot of counselors. But for the first and second sessions, it's really getting to know the couple. Like I like to get to know my couple and just kind of get a picture of their relationship. Like just kind of, when did y'all meet? What's the relationship been like? What's going on now? We're kind of just getting to know one another, building that rapport, and getting a picture of the main concerns and what's going on. And within this first and second session, we're really observing how the couple communicates and picking up any patterns, things like that. Um, and typically it's the first and second session. Like it just takes some time to kind of get to know one another and get a whole picture of the couple. Sometimes in the second session, but really the third session, we're identifying unhealthy and healthy relationship patterns. So what we do typically is I go over those four horsemen that we talked about a little bit ago. I go over those with a couple and kind of ask them, "Hey, what do you see in a relationship here? What of these four horsemen do you see?" And they typically pick out which ones. And then we talk about, hey, that these are the unhealthy things, and then we talk about the healthy relationship patterns, right? We talk about generally, I go over what's called the Sound Relationship House by John Gottman, and we go over that and we show them this is what a healthy relationship looks like, and this is what we want to work towards, and that's kind of what we do in the rest of the sessions is we try to work through that sound relationship house and do different exercises with that. um, I didn't put further sessions because, right, after those initial sessions, like counseling can kind of take many different paths and roads, right? Things come up within a week, that a couple may want to talk about, and there may be different twists and turns that we go with, and so we just kind of go with where the couple wants to go for their goals for change, and that's kind of how counseling goes. Now, I mentioned a few minutes ago that sometimes we do individual sessions. And the reason why we do individual sessions, I do them a lot, is because you get a better picture from each partner, right? You get to see it from their perspective. There's just a different dynamic when you have two people in a room versus one person in a room, right? You may say things differently alone. You may even share some information that you may not share when you're together. Now, what we do at Joanna Ministries is we say that there's no secrets with the couple. Like, we encourage couples to not have secrets. We encourage couples to just come forward and be open and honest. But sometimes things come out in an individual session that hasn't come out in a couple session. And we can just get a really good picture of how each partner's feeling and what each partner sees in the relationship. And so we're kind of getting a bigger picture. And I do that a lot. And honestly, sometimes, most of the time, both in the couple need individual counseling, need to work on some things alone, to make the relationship better. So those are the things that we have talked about over the last 10 weeks. I know that was very quick, and by no means was that a exhaustive look at everything. If we were to go over every slide that we've gone over, we'd be here all night long. But again, you can refer back to those videos on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page. They're there. They should be there. I guess endlessly. I don't really know, but hopefully you can refer back to those. I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for tuning in. I really, really appreciate you being a part of this group. I hope it's been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I hope you can take something with you. And I hope you'll share it with somebody. I hope you'll let somebody else be a part of this. But really, really appreciate your time. And I hope that you can build your relationship and establish some strong, healthy patterns because of this group. Really, really appreciate it. If you have any needs in the future, please call us at Joanna Ministries. We love